Glad you're with us. I'm Eric Connert.
I'm Stella Escobedo. Our top story today is Election Day in the state's recall. Californians will decide whether Governor Newsom will keep his job.
Our team of reporters making sure we are ready for the day ahead. News 8's Chris Groh has a closer look at the final push from supporters and critics of the governor. But first, Allison Royal is live at the County Registrar of Voters with the latest. Good morning, Allison.
Hey, good morning, Eric and Stella. So a lot of different options for people who want to cast their vote. We have curbside voting in all 221 of those polling locations throughout San Diego County. And there is also a ballot marking device at every single one of those polling locations. That makes it easier for people with maybe vision or dexterity issues to go ahead and cast their vote.
These will allow an individual who is visually impaired or blind to listen to an audio ballot. They could black out the touch screen and they could use a handheld controller with large arrows or braille to mark their ballot.
So that was interim registrar of voters here in San Diego County, Cynthia Paz. I spoke with her and she said the most commonly asked question is, do I vote on both parts of the ballot? She said the answer is simple, that is completely up to each voter. They can either answer just one or both of the questions on their ballot. That first question asks each voter if they support recalling Gavin Newsom or no. The second question asks who they'd like to see replace Newsom in the event a recall is successful. How they answer is their choice. There are 131 ballot drop-off locations throughout San Diego County, and then, of course, those 221 polling locations. But you don't have an assigned polling location this time around. That means you can walk into any polling location throughout San Diego County and cast your ballot. The Registrar of Voters, they have been hard at work. This is not a 5-minute vote for them. Their office typically has 69 permanent employees, but they bring in about 3,000 temporary employees to help for this recall election. This is California's first recall vote since 2003, and back out here live, the Registrar of Voters is expecting about a 70% voter turnout. If you'd like to find a polling place in your area or maybe one of those ballot drop-off locations, there are also drive-through ballot drop-off locations, by the way, at each polling place. We have a list for those locations on our website. That is CBS8.com. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you, too.
And voters throughout the state are deciding two important questions here, as we touched on, whether Governor Newsom will remain in office, and if not, who should replace him.
President Biden campaigned for the governor in Long Beach as nearly 4 dozen candidates are trying to make their case. News 8's Chris Groh is live at Liberty Station with that part of the story. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. So a lot of things going on for voters that haven't decided yet, right? They've got to decide whether or not they are going to recall Governor Gavin Newsom. That's that first question, yes or no. Then deciding amongst all of those candidates, one of them being former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer. We're at his campaign stop right here in Liberty Station. But the big thing right now is that this is the final push. This is the all-out blitz. So let's start with the incumbent, Governor Gavin Newsom, who had President Joe Biden stopping by in Long Beach to help make that final push.
I cannot reinforce the consequences of this recall to set back California and take us off the same COVID cliff that you've seen in places like Texas and Florida and Mississippi and elsewhere.
He's the clone of Donald Trump. Can you imagine him being governor of this state?
Now, Newsom and his campaign are hoping that the president's presence at the stop in California, that this is going to convince those undecided voters to mark no on their recall ballots today. The message from the Newsom campaign has been highlighting the state's COVID-19 response, and as you just heard, comparing it to other states led by Republican governors who have seen alarming surges in hospitalizations and deaths during this pandemic and latest surge of the Delta variant for COVID-19. Now, there also have been some shots taken at some of the other candidates vying for his job, namely Republican frontrunner conservative talk show host Larry Elder, who you just heard President Biden compare to a clone of former President Donald Trump. Now, ironically, many of the candidates looking to replace Governor Newsom have criticized the state's handling of COVID-19 and the pandemic. They focused on the economic impact, the business closures, and Elder says if elected, he would abolish the state's mask and vaccine mandates on his first day in office. Now, other criticisms include Governor Newsom's controversial dinner at the hyper-exclusive French Laundry restaurant in Napa. His record on some of the state's biggest issues have also been targeted by Elder and others who are looking for a big change-up and shake-up there in Sacramento.
Many of the people that are passing rules and regulations in Sacramento have never so much as even run a hot dog stand.
Mr. Newsom's dinner here at the French Laundry showed where he really was, and that is catering to the connected and the lobbyists and the interest groups that really run this state. Well, people ought to know that I'm in this race because I believe I have ideas and solutions that will fix California.
That last voice you just heard from their candidate and Rancho Santa Fe businessman, John Cox. Now, again, Elder is the front runner amongst those candidates, more than 40 of them vying for the governor's job. But we're already starting to hear some doubts being cast by major Republican players, really not just even in the state of California, not just Elder, who's already deciding that they are going to play that card there of essentially saying that they believe that there is fraud happening already in this election. But they also got a big backing there by President Donald Trump. Remember, President Donald Trump continued and still continues to spread lies about the 2020 election, something that the courts have thrown out many challenges against the results there that they believe were fraudulent. But he did write a statement saying, quote, "Does anybody really believe the California recall election isn't rigged?" So we're already starting to see some of that doubt cast there before we even have a final vote tally. Now, we also did hear from California Secretary of State Shirley Weber, who says concerns about election integrity at this point in time right now are simply inaccurate. Eric and Stella.
Stay with News 8 for complete recall election coverage. We will have live results once the polls close at 8 p.m. We will also have the latest tomorrow morning from 4:30 to 7 a.m. right here on CBS 8, then from 7 to 9 on our sister station, the CW.
Today, the husband of missing mother Maya Miliete faces a court hearing for a gun violence restraining order. A judge is expected to decide whether to extend an order against Larry Miliete, which forced him to surrender around 20 firearms. This all comes as newly filed court documents reveal Larry believes his wife is still alive. He also claims Maya left the family on her own accord. The new filing comes in a family court case where Maya's parents are seeking visitation with their 3 grandchildren. A hearing on the case is being held tomorrow. And a man convicted of killing a San Diego police officer is now awaiting sentencing. A jury found Jesse Gomez guilty of first-degree murder and attempted murder for shooting and killing Officer Jonathan de Guzman and hurting his partner, Officer Wade Irwin, back in 2016. The trial now moves into the sentencing phase, where Gomez could face the death penalty or life in prison.
This morning, the San Diego City Council is expected to take a final vote on a ban on those so-called ghost guns. The ordinance aims to crack down on weapons without serial numbers, which officials say are difficult to trace. The new law would make it illegal to sell unregistered gun kits. The ordinance was already approved in an initial vote back in August.
This morning, Hurricane Nicholas is bringing strong winds and heavy rain to Texas. Just look at this video.
Boy, this made landfall last night as a Category 1 hurricane. The storm could dump as much as 2 feet of rain. Nicholas is also hitting Louisiana, where cleanup continues after Ida. Pretty crazy storm season we've already had here, Netta, and it's not letting up.
Yeah, and although it's been downgraded, the real concern is just this rain pounding the area.
Yeah, I mean, look at this map right here. So this is the current conditions of the satellite radar. And what's interesting to note here, there's dry air right behind this system. So the center is actually right here, the northeast side of this storm. That's where all of that heavy rain is. I mean, anywhere that you're seeing the oranges, that's about 2 inches of rain per hour that's coming down. So right now, the northeastern side of Texas, and as you see the west side of Louisiana getting pummeled by a lot of rainfall, but it's also getting very close there to New Orleans, the heavy lines of rain that are coming in. So right behind it, there is dry air and wind that's going to push this along. So that's at least the good news here. Initially, the forecast models were showing that this system was going to stall right over Texas and then slowly work its way to Louisiana. But it's moving along a little bit quicker, and still 8 to 12 inches possible, especially in Louisiana, where you saw it's still coming down. So you can see it just hover there for a little bit. The possibility of isolated tornadoes are also in the forecast. We get some of those twisters that sometimes come out of these systems. Taking a look at our wave heights here, let's bring it to the west coast now. 6-footers. This is showing up right there along the Scripps Pier area. So pretty monster waves for us in San Diego. We don't typically see that, but when these big south swells are coming in, that does happen. So 3 to 6 footers possible. We're seeing that right now. It's actually peaking today. This big system that's been working its way up through the ocean. Beach hazard statement in effect because of it through Wednesday night. High surf advisory just to the north of us in Newport Beach. Also along the coast, a little bit of fog. Looks like it's sitting up above road level, not messing with your views too much unless you are in Fallbrook, where that seems to be one of the trouble spots there with that foggy conditions. So fog in Fallbrook as I fill you in on traffic. For now, we're not noticing the road weather index. If it gets really bad, they usually pop up that bright yellow graphic that shows up here. But for overall, I mean, we're seeing a lot of green, so that means the coast is looking pretty good. Any major roadways that you're taking right now seem to be going just fine with regular speeds. The only problem I'm seeing right now is this roadblock because of an accident. Skyline Truck Trail, both ways are closed right now because of this crash at Lyons Valley Road to Babel Road in between there. So it is kind of a rural area, so hopefully it won't affect your commute this morning.